Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Super Wrench Garage Evening Edition. It's about 11 o'clock on July 6th, and I'm doing a video with pictures and a voiceover to answer my buddy Brad at Brad's Workbench. And Brad's got a neat channel. He does woodworking, how-tos, tool reviews. He's the original tool tuber of the internet. And he's got a neat channel, got about 2,000 subscribers, so you really got to go check him out. I'll leave a link in the description below. But Brad and I, follow each other on Instagram. And on Instagram, I put up a picture of a table saw motor that I repurposed. And I repurposed it to use a wire wheel on one side and a buffing Scotch-Brite wheel on the other. Yeah, the one made famous by Joe's Shop and some other guys. So, the backstory is I inherited this table saw through my wife. It was my wife's grandfather's saw, and she inherited it. It sat in the shed for many years, didn't really get used. I don't have a lot of pictures of it, so I'll pull some pictures off the web as illustration. I know the date stamping on the motor is 1955, so that's a good indication of how old it is. I'm also going to roll in some pictures of diagrams from the Craftsman model book. So I have this table saw. It's sitting in the garage, not doing anything. It works. I tested it out. It does cut wood. It's just kind of, old, worn, needs some tender love and care. But before I get to that, I was looking at the motor going, that's a good motor. And on each side, it had pulleys. One had a V-belt pulley, and one had kind of a corrugated belt pulley. So after much, how would I say this? After much WD-40, I got the bolts, square bolts that held it on there loose and pulled the motor off. And I set to work taking the pulleys off, and the pulleys were on via a keyway and a lock screw. So it was easy enough to get the pulleys off, easy being, sledgehammer and pry bar, and they were on there good. We got them off, didn't bend any shafts, had no problems. And so then I had the problem of how do I adapt it to taking a new item. So I did some research on the great and powerful internet that we're all know and love. And I came across arbor adapters. So I measured the arbor with my calipers, and I believe it was a 5/8 of an inch arbor. So on Amazon they sell arbor adapters for 1/2 inch or 5/8 or 1/2 inch to 5/8, and you can pick them up. I'll roll in an image here, and you can then adapt your motor shaft to do that. So that's what I did. So on each end, Brad, I put these arbor adapters with set screws, torqued them down good, and I'm now able to add a wire wheel on one side and a fiber wheel on the other. I could do 2 fiber wheels, I could do 2 wire wheels. It runs great. It doesn't have heat issues. It doesn't have a fan per se. It's a 110 volt motor, 60 amps, 3400 RPMs, but there's no external fan to drive air into it. It's all convection. It's got big ports on the side that cool it. And to be frank, I just blow them out with some compressed air, and it's good to go. So that's really kind of how I converted it step by step. So first I got it off the table saw, made sure it still worked, figured out how to get the old pulleys off, and I did save them for restoration. And then I figured out what sort of adapters I needed, and I got the adapters, and it works fantastic. And so today in the shop, I actually took a piece of 1x10 pine and cut it into a 12-inch section with a couple of 4-inch sections, and I mounted a base to it. So now I can mount it to my cabinet, or my, not cabinet, my workbench. Alright, anyway. So now I've got it on a base, I can clamp it down to the workbench. Life is good. So now I'm going to go, So, Brad, I hope that answers your question. This has been a Super Wrench Garage Quick Clip. We'll see you in the next video. Thank you.